Barcelona drops its very first few points in La Liga this season in a game against Rayo Vallecano, which was difficult, complicated, it always is, and we didn't have those moments of magic that in many other instances, would save this Barcelona. I think it's clear to see that something so far for this Hansi Flick team, season 2 of the project, something is still not clicking. And despite, having our players on tremendous form at the start of last season, our team played good and our team was fluid, something that so far we haven't seen. However, believe it or not, there are still some points, some very high good points that I want to talk about this game, and those which I'm going to comment in today's video. What's going on, guys? ¿Cómo están? BugaLuis here, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. And yes, indeed, Barcelona drew 1-1 against Rayo Vallecano. And before I start talking about the result, about the game itself, I want to highlight sort of the best things of the day. And the best thing certainly that we can take away from it is that I believe Barcelona has found a goalkeeper. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Mr. Joan García. This goalkeeper was the sole reason why Barcelona didn't lose today's game by 3 or 2 goals. Joan García is a proper goalkeeper, and I want to ask you, is this the best goalkeeper that we've had ever since Marc-André ter Stegen back in 2019? Have we finally found somebody that is able to get us victory, or in this scenario, get us rescue some points from what almost looks like a certain defeat? Has Barcelona found their goalkeeper for the next generation? Have we? Joan García really was on top of his game throughout tonight. I think that he saved Barcelona on 5 certain instances. There were some incredible shot-stopping abilities that he showcased tonight. He's not only good with his feet, where it's a place where I think he can improve, but as a shot stopper, like as a proper goalkeeper, dude, within the 18-yard box, that was his place, man. That was his home. He was saving us constantly. There's a shot against Easy in the second half that was superb. A shot against the Frutos just before he got substituted that also Joan García saved incredibly well. The way he stretches, the way he closes the gap down, and the way that he gets himself forward, make himself big, and the horizontal stretch that he has to his game, I think it's superb, dude. I think Joan García really looked today like a proper, top goalkeeper. A goalkeeper that you can tell and say, okay, this is why Barcelona brought him for, and this is why he should remain and continue to be the main goalkeeper for the continuous and foreseeable future. Like last season, I can only remember 2 performances from the top of my head that I went like, okay, our goalkeeper saved us today. And the first one is Iñaki Peña, that I think Iñaki Peña saved us in the very first El Clásico, some few instances, at the start of the game, the first half where we're still 0-0 between Barça and Real Madrid, Iñaki Peña saved us quite a lot there. And then Chesney against Benfica. But these were games that ultimately we won, and it could change the tide of the game and the momentum of it. But not like this. Joan García, saving us in a game where when we are playing bad, that's a completely different scenario. That's a completely different context. And I do not think that I've seen that last season at all in a single game. So kudos to Joan García, because really he was 100% the man of the match. However, we all know in football that if it means that the goalkeeper is the man of the match, probably the rest of the team sucked. And that was the case here with Barcelona, except for some few exceptions, which I'm gonna just mention right now. However, first, like the video, guys, and subscribe to the channel. Really, this is a new season, and we want to tell the almighty YouTube algorithm that we are back. So go ahead and drop that like, comment. I'll always try to respond to comments whenever I have the time. And yeah, let's continue with a player before the starting 11 that I want to talk about, and that is Frenkie de Jong. I think that today we also saw how good can Frenkie de Jong be when it comes down to the ball progression of our team. He was so instrumental in us retaining possession throughout the match, and without him, I think we would have suffered a lot more. The way that we suffered in the game against Levante just last week. I think that that's where we saw Frenkie de Jong really being a necessity to this Flick team. And that's the difference between Frenkie and Casado. That debate happened, but once Frenkie got the consistency, got the rhythm, I think you can just see it's a different player. It's a different kind of mold. And just like we always do, let's talk about the starting 11, guys, because I think it showcased some decisions that Hansi Flick wanted, or some decisions that Hansi Flick made before the game, right? So the following team that Barcelona used away against Levante was Joan García as the goalkeeper, Alejandro Valde, Andreas Christensen, and Eric Garcia, with Jules Koundé accompanying them as the right back. The two double pivot, Frankie de Jong and Pedri, Dani Olmo, Lamine Yamal, and Rafinha behind the striker, which was Ferran Torres. Rayo Vallecano lineup with Batalla, Ratiu, Felipe, Florian Lejeune, the Frenchman, Pep Echevarría, Álvaro García, Papetis, Unai López, Juan de Frutos, Diaz, and Isi Palazón. Of course, I think when we talk about this, the thing that really draws our eye is the incorporation of Christensen and Eric Garcia. I think those were very bold decisions by Hansi Flick, and really it's sort of like a message to Araujo and to Cubarsí that, hey, something is wrong. I think we all know you're a starter center backs, but you weren't good in the first two games. I think that's the message. There were some sort of reports suggesting that he was going to try something new, and certainly Flick delivered here, right? So Eric Garcia, I think he looked superb as a center back. I think he looked solid. I think Eric Garcia, we all said it before, I think it's like the Sergio Roberto of this generation. He always performs wherever you put him in, be it CDM, be it right back, be it center back, like this time around, and I think he did good enough. You know, Eric Garcia, I don't think I have a problem with him. The only thing will be the pace. The pace really showcased. In some cases, Eric Garcia was sort of drawn out and caught off guard because basically his pace is not the fastest guy out there. The other thing that really struck out for me was the incorporation of Dani Olmo as the number 10. I think that Dani Olmo, I don't know if Flick is looking at the game from last season where Dani Olmo came in and revolutionized it against Rayo Vallecano, which was very similar to today. The only difference was that Dani Olmo in that game started on the bench and not as a starter. I think Dani Olmo today was okay, and I'll develop that later on in this video. And I think that Dani Olmo was a key instrumental part as to why we didn't win this game. I think if we had a Dani Olmo fresher or just, I don't know, came in later in the game, maybe that could have been a similar formula that we could have repeated and beat Rayo Vallecano. I think that overall, Dani Olmo was a key piece. I think that Flick tried to evolve and learn from what we saw last season here at Vallecas, and it just didn't develop into being that. Comparing it to other players that we could have put in there, like a Rashford, moving Rafinha as the number 10, or having someone like a Fermin, I just think that Dani Olmo makes a lot more sense because Rayo Vallecano are such a good team when it comes to being compact, because they press so very high up as well. Not as much as us, but as soon as they see a long ball or something, they all attack in a group, you know, and that's very good. And we need someone to be press proven for that. And Frankie is that, Pedri is that, but we were lacking somebody else in attack that was able to do that. We saw many times how the touches from Rafinha were very rough and tough. Ferran Torres the same. Lamine Yamal really was the only one of our main starters that has that silk touch in the front line, and Dani Olmo sort of brings that to the team as well. So I think that that's why Dani Olmo was played there. And the final thing that we have to talk about with the lineup is that we had Ferran over Robert Lewandowski. Ferran over Robert Lewandowski, I think made sense. I don't know if Lewandowski is still picking some sort of injury, but we know that Ferran already scored 2 goals. He's our top goal scorer this season so far, with Lamine Yamal both with 2 goals. So maybe we want to keep Ferran Torres there, and we wanted a little bit of the movement of him. But I think that he just was eaten up by the center backs. I think that Luis Felipe and Lejeune, I don't know, had a good game against him, and maybe the presence of Lewandowski could have been better. But it's just very easy to say that in hindsight. So let's move into the game. So Rayo Vallecano is always a very difficult team. In fact, the last time that Barcelona came out of this stadium with a clean sheet, the last time a goalkeeper for Barcelona had a clean sheet against Rayo Vallecano in Vallecas was in 2014. And can you guess the goalkeeper? It was Claudio Bravo. So it's more than 10 years, a decade since Barcelona has been able to keep a clean sheet here. So it tells us that Rayo Vallecano are a very difficult team for Barcelona. And I kind of want to pose the question to you guys that is Rayo Vallecano the new Getafe for Barcelona? You know, Barcelona always has those bogey teams in La Liga, be it Celta de Vigo, be it Rayo Vallecano this time around, or being teams like Getafe. I think Rayo Vallecano enters that fold now. I think Rayo Vallecano is one of those teams that we can just add to the group. Barcelona really don't like playing against them. And yeah, we really don't like playing against them. Now I want to move actually to talk about the biggest controversy of the game. That is mainly I think the main talking point for all of the other fan bases in so far in La Liga, on Twitter, or wherever you're looking and get your football content. And that's the penalty on Lamine Yamal. So let's take a look at it here. You know this account that I love, Archivo VAR. They always like to talk and comment on basically if it's a penalty or not. And basically what they say is that we know that there was a problem with the VAR. There wasn't a connection between the referee and the VAR station, and he couldn't check the screen. So the referee, as soon as he saw this, he gave a penalty. I think that if you look at this chance, for me, it's a clear penalty. There's a lot of people saying that it shouldn't be a penalty, even some Barcelona fans, and I do not agree with this. I look at the movement here of the player, and you can just see how Echeverria hits Lamine Yamal with his right leg. Look at that. Look at it again. He hits Lamine Yamal with his right leg on his left leg. And I think you can just see that with his thigh, right? With his thigh right here, he hits Lamine Yamal. And for me, that's a clear penalty, guys. It's a clear penalty. I have no problem. Look at this. The contact is made here. That's a penalty. That's a penalty, in my opinion. I have no problem in debating anyone that wants to say otherwise in the comments down below. I do think it's a penalty for Barcelona, and it's okay that it was given. Interesting thing, it was Lamine Yamal that converts his very first penalty kick for Barcelona ever in his career wearing a Blaugrana shirt, so that's insane. That's good news. I like Lamine Yamal taking penalties. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Of course, Robert Lewandowski, maybe if he's in the side, he would take them. But we know that Lamine Yamal wants to transition to become, this main figure and main stage at Barcelona. Maybe taking the penalties is what he needs. Maybe he wants to inflate his numbers for the Ballon d'Or conversation or something similar to that. So, yeah, I don't have any... I'm not opposed to it. Of course, the last penalty before this that Lamine Yamal took was the one that he missed. I do not know exactly the competition, but he did miss a penalty. It wasn't the Nation League's final. Maybe it was the semifinals. I don't know, but he missed the penalty, right? And coming back to scoring one here, I think it's good. I think he wants to become the face of this new Barcelona, right? And scoring the penalty certainly would add to that. After halftime, Barcelona returned, and in minute 62, Hansi Flick made some changes. The first of them was Dani Olmo out and Fermín López in. Also, Marcus Rashford went out, and we saw Rafinha. Also, Rafinha came out, and Marcus Rashford came in. And I think that this translated to basically Barcelona losing complete control of the game. The control of the game wasn't handled by Barcelona to begin with, but we just gave it out to Rayo Vallecano completely when Dani Olmo left the game. And I have a clear graph here that you can see on screen. You can see right here below my camera, there's a graph, right? There's a graph right there. And you can see that for the longest stretches of time, Rayo Vallecano had control of the game, even more and more intensely than Barcelona in the first half. But right about here where my mouse is at the moment, that's when Dani Olmo came out. And just look at the next few, I would say 15 to 20 minutes, Rayo Vallecano had complete control. Rayo Vallecano completely dominated Barcelona for that instances. And that's when their goal came, even after the goal as well. So I think Dani Olmo was clear and evidently that could have been the catalyst for what it was at the end, the sort of draw for Barcelona. We could have played a lot better as a team. That's 100% certain. But we cannot shoot ourselves in the foot when it comes to taking out players that were handling business. And Dani Olmo certainly gave us that control in the game. And Dani Olmo certainly gave us that control in the game. Quickly touching on Rashford, I think that Rashford was good when he came into the team. I think that Rashford has tremendous amounts of speed, and we saw that whenever we passed it to him on the side, we were good with it. You know, Rashford really got the ball and handled business. Went through Ratio a few times, the right back from Rayo Vallecano. So I think that was the formula sort of to attack Rayo Vallecano in the second half, but it just didn't develop. We weren't continuously, you know, taking advantage of that. And I think that Barcelona should have done that a lot more. Rashford really was a good outlet. I think that he needs still a little bit more confidence. He takes some rash decisions sometimes, maybe touches the ball too much or dribbles too far into the box. And there was an instance where Rashford just, I don't know what he, I don't know if it was a shot. I don't know if it was a pass. We all know what I'm talking about. And the other player that I think sort of wasn't playing so good was Jules Koundé. I think Koundé overall is always very solid. He will always give you a 7 minimum out of 10 every single game. But not really, but he mostly always does good, right? But something that I can guarantee you is that in some games, Koundé, for just 10 to 15 minutes, he loses all sense of concentration. Like there was in that moment where Rayo Vallecano were dominating, and the equalizer came from Fran Perez. Koundé just disappeared, dude. He was giving out sloppy passes. We know that he completely missed his man at the. He completely missed Fran Perez, that was the one who scored out the corner. So Koundé just have these lapses in concentration that I just wonder what's wrong with him. We haven't seen the best of Koundé this season, and I hope that he can regain his form quickly because he has not started this campaign good at all. Like he looks like a completely different player. Give me Eddie Garcia as the right back because with kid you not, Eddie Garcia was so good in aerial duels today. I don't think that Eddie Garcia lost a single aerial duel. Actually, let me take a look at them. No, and he didn't. He had 4 aerial duels and he won all 4 of them. So that's tremendous from Eddie Garcia. And he's not the tallest center back out there. So yeah, I think that Eddie Garcia, so far, he's the right back. He is the right back for this team if we don't find a solution to this earlier or soon enough. I think Koundé does give you a little bit better movements moving further forward, but even today he wasn't as clear and he almost always passed it back. So I don't know really what to say. Good to see Gerard Martin back. I cannot believe I actually say that out loud, but I really like his incorporation in today's game. And last but not least, I just wanted to say, what does this mean for Barcelona? What does this draw mean? So far, Athletic Bilbao, Athletic Club, to say it correctly, and Real Madrid are the only teams that have complete 9 points out of 3 games. Barcelona here lost again some few points, and of course, it's not good for the title race. I think that if we don't change this quickly, we could see some struggles. But what I'm happy, and this is weird what I'm going to say, normally you want these problems to happen very early on in the season when you know you have some margin for error, be that right now when the La Liga is starting or when the Champions League will start. We already know that the first game is going to be a tremendous banger away at St. James's Park against Newcastle. So it's a difficult run of games that Barcelona is coming now. It's going to be heading into. But Flick has a moment to think about his team now in 11 days of the international break, 2 weeks, and see how he wants to spice things up. Because I think that Barcelona is not looking as fresh as before. Is it fatigue from last season? I don't know. We need to analyze that a little bit deeper. But yeah, Barcelona, really, we shouldn't worry too much about it because, like I said, it's starting at the start of the year. This slow start, but hopefully doesn't translate. If this happens on the next match day against Valencia, it could be a problem. I think that a very good positive thing will be Barcelona returning to the Camp Nou as soon as possible. That's the best news that Barcelona can get. That will be a huge boost for all the players that haven't played there yet. Can you believe that some players have not played in the Camp Nou yet? That's going to be a huge boost, and the fans are going to be certainly riled up for that when it happens. So, guys, stick to it. Stick to Barcelona. Continue your support. I think this is just the start of a long season ahead. Do not get worried. Let's keep the good momentum. Let's keep going. We find a goalkeeper that is up to standard in Joan García. And stick to the channel, guys. Drop a like, subscribe. We're going to be here always. See you in the next one. Take care. Ciao, ciao.